Hey guys, Laura here. I'm going to go through a Leaving Cert history essay with you today from the 2018 paper. It's from the topic The Pursuit of Sovereignty and the Impact of Partition, and it's the question about Cosgrave and De Valera. Now I'm going to dip in and dip out of different parts of the essay, guys, so I do recommend you have a read through the entire essay yourselves so that you're a bit clearer on what exactly I'm talking about. But in saying that, there will be a fully annotated PDF of the essay on Studyclix afterwards if you would like a bit more detail on the entire essay. So let's get into it. First of all, let's look at the question itself. It's quite a long question, so let's make sure that we are doing exactly what we need to do to cover all of our bases for the examiner. The first thing that stands out to me there are the dates. We know that we have to touch on the entire span of those dates. We have to at least go from 1922 all the way up to 1945. That will be stated on the marking scheme. You also then, of course, need to be aware of that little word AND. That tells me that I have two parts to this question and I have to speak about Cosgrave and De Valera. Be really careful there. It's a really common thing on the paper where you're asked to, who was more effective, Cosgrave or De Valera? Or sometimes you're given a choice, and or. But here you have to speak about both. The final word that I want to highlight for you there is the word effective. It's crucial because sometimes it's not as clear cut when you're talking about historical events or when you're talking about political parties. Were they effective in dealing with something? Often it's not black and white. So you might have to analyse the event and what they did, and then analyse their effectiveness. Were they successful? Did they bring about any benefits? Were there any advantages to how they dealt with the threats? Those are some of the things that you could just ask yourself when you're trying to refer back to their effectiveness. And if you do that, then you are definitely answering the question that is being asked for you. And I'm going to talk about that even a little bit more here in relation to the marking scheme. Now, each paragraph is divided into 12 and the best 5 are picked and it's marked out of 60. And then there are 40 marks left over and that is divided into the categories that are in front of you. And if you look down the way, the phrase that you could think about is the phrase, the set question. So this is a really common thing. Are you answering the question that was asked of you on the day, or are you answering the question that you wish was asked of you on the day? Or are you simply jotting down everything you know about the topic, but not actually focusing it specifically to the set question on the paper in front of you? That is something to be so aware of. This particular sample answer does treat the set question pretty almost excellently all the time. So you have a good example here. The other phrase that I want to point out to you, detailed, accurate, substantial. Are you giving accurate and substantial information? If you're giving a date, do you just know the year or do you just know the month? Or do you know the day, the month and the year? For example, detailed, substantial and accurate facts and evidence. That is what the examiners are told to look out for. There it is in front of you. So now looking at this specific essay, starting off with the introduction. The date is there in front of you, as mentioned on the question, 1922 to 1945. I would love if this question set the scene a little bit more in relation to the Civil War and the Anglo-Irish Treaty, because the question mentions Cosgrave and De Valera, referring then of course to their two political parties, Cumann na Gael and Sinn Féin first of all, and then Fianna Fáil. And the division between those parties started as a result of the Civil War and the Anglo-Irish Treaty. So it would be remiss to not let the examiner know that or set the scene, because things were tense. There were threats to the state, threats to the security of the state, words of the question, as a result of the Civil War and as a result of the Anglo-Irish Treaty. So reference to that is needed in this particular introduction. The opening sentence, it's very well expressed. It summarises the question. I'm often asked, how do I actually start? What's my first sentence? Well, just look at the question and answer it in one sentence. The governments of both Cosgrave and De Valera faced many threats to the security of the state, and now I'm going to talk about them in great detail and off I go. Nice use of listing. The threats came from both home and abroad and included the Army Mutiny of 1923, etc., etc. I love that word included because it gives you a little get out clause that if you don't get all of those things referred to, if you don't get a paragraph on all of those things done in your essay, the word included there just kind of implies that I mightn't mention all of them. I'm going to try, now don't try and get away with that all of the time, but it's a nice little touch there, something to be aware of. So the main body of the essay, does it deal with the set question that's asked? Does it give detailed information? Looking firstly at paragraphs 1 and paragraph 2. From without even reading a single word, they look pretty meaty, don't they? And they are, and they're well expressed, and they use lovely language and clear expression. They have lots of specific facts and evidence. You see dates, you see statistics, you see names, you see quotes. That is pretty detailed and accurate and substantial information. The paragraphs then are linked as well. The end of the first paragraph talks about they threatened a military takeover which would destroy democracy in the state, which of course is a threat to the security of the state. The next one, Cosgrave dealt with this threat. This sentence is referring back to the previous paragraph. The words of the questions are being used there. This person is on track. They're aware of what they're supposed to do on the day. At the end of that first paragraph there, it summarises the actions taken by Cosgrave's government and their effectiveness. It's a common thing that people leave out these couple of sentences, that they give me the details about the Army Mutiny. This is the story of what happened during the Army Mutiny. But then on the day, the set question asked me to talk about how effectively was that dealt with. And this person said that up to the crisis, the army had been semi-independent. After the crisis, the government was firmly in control of the army. So they won, they succeeded. They were very effective in what they did to deal with that threat to security. Moving down the essay a bit to paragraphs 6 and 7. Before you even read a word, you can see that there's different paragraph lengths here. That's nice to see. These paragraphs deal with the threat to the state that came in the form of O'Duffy's fascist movement. And we don't necessarily need loads of detail on O'Duffy and everything that happened there. We're looking at the effectiveness of how De Valera dealt with that threat. So this person sums up the actual threat very well, using the language of the set question over and over and over again, while also varying their statements. It's not just the same thing over and over again. This was a threat to the security, then this was a threat to the security, then this was. I do think you could turn the start of that second paragraph there in front of you into a linking phrase very, very easily. In July of 1933, De Valera then had to, something like that. You could just link those paragraphs. I mean, they're obviously linked. They are about the same thing, but you have to just express that. I've highlighted this phrase here for you guys. De Valera feared a possible coup d'etat and swiftly banned the march. And the word that I really want to talk about is the word swiftly. A very simple way to refer to the question a lot of the time is to use adjectives and adverbs. I know this isn't an English essay, but some of your English essay writing skills are going to help you here. Because if I say that De Valera swiftly banned the march, I am implying that he was dealing with it effectively because he dealt with it quickly, he dealt with it swiftly. So if I use an adjective to describe, let's say if I described De Valera as a very effective leader or as a very strong leader, I'm giving an opinion, I'm making an argument, I'm engaging in historical debate. I'm actually referring to the question by using adjectives and adverbs in a kind of implicit way, so I can't over rely on the use of those, but it's just something to be aware of. And a very simple reference to the question. There's great layout and control in this essay. This is the threat, this is the detail on the threat, this is how the threat was dealt with, and then I'm going to sum up, was it effective or not? De Valera had once again successfully defended the Free State. Therefore, he was effective. And the final thing to talk about is, of course, the conclusion. After a pretty excellent essay, we don't want to leave a sour taste in the examiner's mouth. We want to finish strong. And does this essay do that? It has some very positive things in this conclusion. Again, that great expression and listing skills that we had seen throughout the essay is seen here as well, listing the different things that each government dealt with and giving an overall analysis of each leader's actions. I'm nitpicking a little bit, but one final sentence I'd love to see is something about how all of these effective actions, even though some of them were seen as quite harsh, it does place Ireland in a better position as it moves forward after the war in gaining its full independence. You know, the overall effect of all of these things in relation to Ireland and the world stage can't really be underestimated. And you could just add that in there slightly to really give this essay that final punch. It would really be excellent. But I'm going to finish up now, guys, in my breakdown of this particular essay, which I hope you found useful. And to remind you, of course, that the full essay is analysed on Studyclix if you'd like to look at what I have to say about the other paragraphs. And I hope to talk to you all again soon. Best of luck.